Hello, everybody. I am Coach Wilde. I am your host for Awaken with Lauren Wilde. Welcome to episode 37, where we're going to talk about the topic of nurture and neglect. And so I am a professional astrologer. I am a spiritual teacher that ranges all the way from the esoteric arts to being a 500-hour yoga instructor, a master facilitator, and also a health and holistic coach. So let's go ahead and get into it. So at the time of this recording, it is Tuesday, January the 14th of 2025. I actually recorded this yesterday under the full moon in Cancer and it didn't save. So what you guys are getting today is a little bit more of a synthesized and shortened but potent transmission that are some of the themes of the astrology. Now, if you go back and listen through my podcast, you will notice that I have changed some of the things to put episodes and then to basically phrase each episode with a topic. And so for your listening quality from here on out, I am going to be thinking about the actual astrology that is coming down the pipe, but I'm really going to start to focus on the major themes, takeaways, and coaching methods and messages that I want you guys to take. I've gotten a lot of really incredible feedback from doing marketing research from last autumn up until December of 2024. A lot of the feedback that I got was, you're talking to me in a language I can't understand. I want to know just a taste of the astrology, but what I really want you to do is to name the theme and the problems, the challenges, the obstacles, and what to do about it, because you're good at that. And so that is one of the transitions and one of the things that I am implementing from the feedback that I got. Anytime that people add constructive criticism, I really do my best to try to apply it because I want you guys to get value. So let's go ahead and get to work around that. The full moon yesterday was in the zodiac sign of Cancer. And that zodiac sign is the mother archetype of the zodiac. Its mantra is, I nurture. It is under this full moon, which we have every year, the wolf moon, that the sun is in Capricorn directly opposite the moon in Cancer. So we always have Capricorn season this time of the year, and we always get a full moon in Cancer this time of the year, known as the wolf moon. It is under the light of the full moon, and this is across the board for all full moon energy, and that is the full moon is the illumination, the full illumination of some sort of cycle that you started during the new moon cycle of the journey that you're on. So you would want to go back and look at June of 2024 and what was going on for you. The reason for that is because that was the new moon in Cancer. And so much like we are about to have our next new moon, that is going to set up for the next 6-month cycle that we're moving ahead. And then 6 months from now, there will be a full moon in the same corresponding sign. And you will see the outcome, the illumination of all of the work and the effort that you put in 6 months previously. All right. So whenever you read about, pop astrology and people are like, full moons, are a time to manifest and this and that. Yes. And also it's a time to celebrate and to surrender and to pay attention to the outcome of what you sowed 6 months previously. And hopefully at this point of these podcasts, these transmissions, and working with me over time, you'll see that what astrology really is learning how to track the patterns that are ruled by time and seasons and cycles, both very small, being yourself, your own, microcosm of self, all the way out into these massive cycles that are, beyond a moon cycle, which is 28 days long, or a sun cycle, which is 31 days long, or a Jupiter cycle, which we're going to talk about, which is 12 years long, or a Pluto cycle, which is 250 years long, give or take. So there are all these massive cycles and big themes that are always going on. But to keep it, closer to ourselves, we really, in my world, we really focus on two things, and that is the moon, because it's constantly changing and it's very close to us. It denotes our emotions, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But we also follow the shadow of the moon, or the nodes of the moon, a lot, which are the eclipses, again tied to lunar astrology. Okay. Now we talk about all kinds of stuff in my actual programs. I can literally talk about any of the Hellenistic planets and the asteroids. That's a lot of my more expertise pieces, as well as Chiron. But there are so many types of astrology, so many. And I talk about that in, a lot of my webinars and stuff. But for the sake of time and consistency, let's get into what I want to talk about for this session. So the moon in astrology, we all are born with a moon sign. And the moon sign is important to understand because it tells us about our relationship to how we feel about things. It is the most instinctual part of who we are. Understanding the element of your natal moon will help you understand a lot of your own temperament. For example, I have an Aries moon. I lean a lot into my Aries moon at this point, and that is I'm action oriented, I'm direct, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm very instinctual. I will pivot if I feel in my body danger is coming, you need to pivot. I'm very Aries moon. Fire moons are very intense because they are passionate and they feel fire, right? They feel that intensity. Whereas a water moon is going to be more secretive. It's going to need more time to process. It needs to sit with things. It needs to meditate on things. It needs to feel its way through things. Also tends to, stuff emotions, particularly Scorpio moons, excellent at stuffing emotions so that they can calculate it for strategy later. Ask me how I know. I have so many Scorpio moons in my life that I absolutely adore, but it's a thing. And then when you get into earth moons, they're very practical. They're very mundane. They really need a lot of data and security and time to make wise choices. And then when we get to air moons, is when, we've got a lot of logic, a lot of, whenever I work with an air moon, the very first homework I give them is to start to notice how often, instead of saying how they feel about something, they say, I think, and bringing their awareness to the fact that everything is thought oriented and that everything they're running is through the lens of their mind instead of checking in with their body and their intuition and their heart. And so every moon sign is different. But last night we had a moon in Cancer, which is water. And this moon brings up emotions, especially a full moon. It really illuminates those emotions. What are some of those emotions about? It is about nurturance. It's about self-care, self-nurturance. It's about, people that you depend on to take care of you to survive, and you taking care of dependence. Because of that opposition to the sun in Capricorn, it's a lot about responsibility. And the question with it in a conjunction to Mars retrograde is resentment. It is built in old resentment around taking care of people, places, things, ideas, and not being able to take care of yourself. It is meant to illuminate areas of our lives that we recognize we are lacking nutrition, whether that's physical nutrition, food, or soul nutrition, or, a level of intimacy in relationships that the soul needs. It needs that, like chicken noodle soup for the soul would be very Cancerian, guys. As a matter of fact, I think that series was written under the Jupiter and Cancer cycle, which we're going to have this summer and we're going to talk about in a minute. But when we think about this, it's really important that you understand that this moon is very much going to be illuminating the patterns and the cycles that we have that are tied to our birth givers, our mothers, ourselves as mothers. Are we able, to take care of ourselves the way that we take care of everybody else? Why or why not? And then one of the other really big parts of that is, around recognizing how we may self-sabotage our own self-care because, we are too busy taking care of everybody else. And I saw a quote the other day. I don't know who said that, but it like really stuck with me for the full moon in Cancer. And it says, everyone is not your assignment, and that's why you're drained. And so this is a really important piece that I want to carry on in this, which is understanding that, when Cancer is in her low expression, she neglects herself to take care of everybody else to make sure they're housed, they're fed, they're clothed, they're cared for. But then Cancer will remember that. Okay, they are the ancient record keeper of the zodiac. They will remember that. It's stored in their cells. They are the ancient genealogy keeper of the astrology too. So, they remember everything, especially if it has to do with something that wronged them. And, the other piece of it is that it wants to kind of mother everyone, like mother hen when it's in its low expression. It wants to get involved, in over mothering other people. It wants to make sure that you've drank enough water. It wants to make sure you've done this. It wants to make sure you've done that, which is appropriate if you have actual children or you work with, young children that are developing a sense of interdependence. But oftentimes under this moon, it gets examined around the areas that we are actually revealing, under this moon influence, our actual need to manage other people, because it creates a sense of safety and control for ourselves. And that is that aspect of, the nurture and the neglect, and how are we intertwining in that paradox? How are we caring for other people that we do care about? And how are we also making sure that we care for ourselves? And it draws me back to a very old, kind of like concept, which is, you're on the airplane with your child, and if the oxygen bags fall, you have to put the mask on yourself first, and then you lean over and then you help your child put the mask on. And there really is no better way to sort of wrap our minds around the bigger concept of this moon. And when we think about it through the lens of astrology and the work, then we want to go back and look to June of 2024. Were we, setting up intentions to take care of our bodies better? Were we setting up intentions to eat cleaner? Were we setting up intentions, to have better boundaries and to not get involved in other people's business because it's not ours? And, whatever. And you have to kind of reflect back on that. So for me, I was really sick. I had just found out that I was really sick. I had some stressful news come in. And it began, what I didn't realize was about a 6-month period of time of being very, very sick. And under that energy is where I decided, like, I have to revise the way I'm doing my work so that it doesn't kill me. It was also when I really started to understand that the more I was doing one-on-one coaching, the more I was really stepping into this mother, like matrilineal role. And I needed to create more structure and more space in my coaching, especially my one-on-one containers, because it was really kind of getting to a place of enmeshment that I needed to become aware of. And side note, it's complicated when you're a relational entrepreneur and teacher. You kind of get, to know people on a more personal level than you would if you were an outright therapist and you have laws to follow and to keep. Which is like truly one of the weird parts of being a spiritual teacher and an entrepreneur in this age, but that's another conversation for another day. But it was during this period of time that I was like, I need a better structure that I can follow that will keep me in my lane and I can keep reflecting back on. And no matter what, I have to structure my business in a way that is going to sustain me and not drain me. And again, like that sustain and drain, you have to be able to catch back into that over and over and over. So you want to kind of look back on your own work, what was going on in June, and where are we at now? What's getting illuminated underneath that? The other thing with, recognizing that person is not your assignment is that you are your assignment. And When we have full moons in Cancer, oftentimes it can reveal sickness in the body. It can reveal, especially based on nutritional deficiencies. But now we've got the South Node in Virgo, which is really going to force us to look at our health, our systems, what is working on a more holistic level to support us for the long term. And what are we going to have to look at that we are using the currency of our time and our interest and our focus? How are we directing that towards other people, especially grown-ass adults that don't need you to micromanage their lives? They need to stop having you enable them and grow up, and you need to take a step back and you need to let people grow up. And that feeling that you get inside of you when you're like, but, that's the piece you need to do inventory around. What part of me gains validation or gains worthiness by prioritizing other people's needs over my own? How does that possibly take me back to my childhood? Did I have to make sure that everybody else was cared for instead of myself? Did I have to make sure that, I was monitoring my mom's emotions so that I didn't make her upset? But essentially, you have to step into a caregiver, particularly your mother's energy. Did you have to step into that role at a young age? And that program is still running, and it needs to be brought awareness to, and it needs to be stopped and replaced with a better behavior that is not a compulsion, that is keeping you in the cycle of deficiency, right? And in order to do that, we have to step into what is called, parenting the self. We have to mother ourselves in the same way that we might want to externalize mothering somebody else. Did you drink enough water today? Did you do this? Let me go with you. Let me make sure you do it right. That's very like mother behavior, right? Is instead to take that energy to notice that trigger to want to manage things for people, which therein creates safety and consistency in your conditions for yourself. And you have to mirror it back to yourself. Have I drank water today? Have I exercised my body today? Did I get adequate amounts of sleep? Did I pack my lunch so I have a healthy lunch today? Right? Did I check in with my friends? Did I check in with my own body instead of checking it to make sure everybody else has done that? Thank you, mother. I'm saluting you. And instead, turn it back around on yourself. And it is all of the uncomfortability that we feel when we try to redirect, that nurturance back to ourselves that we are therein left in the work that the full moon in Cancer would want to bring up. Okay. So I have a little bit of an activity for you, and that is to do a bit of an inventory around where are you over mothering, right? Where are you over mothering in your life? There is a couple of really good resources. The first one is called The Rescuer Victim Persecutor Cycle, which is in Dr. Claude Steiner's book, Emotional Literacy. So if you recognize that you're in that rescuer, energy, which then puts you in the victim because you're sick or you're tired or you're overwhelmed because you were the rescuer, and now you're the victim and you are resentful, that I can't think of a more Cancerian cycle than that one. And again, that book's name is Emotional Literacy. It is what is underneath that propels us to want to continue in those behaviors that we actually are left with to examine. We can bring all the awareness to the problems and the challenges in the world, but we have to ask ourselves, and what's under that? And then what's under that? And once I start to get clear on what's under that, how do I rewrite the narrative? How do I get empowerment around this in a way that not only empowers me, my body, my time, the ability to have enough time to like go get my nails done. Like I really want to go get my nails done, but I've been so busy truly with taking care of other people's needs that I have not had time to prioritize my nails. Now, it's not an absolute priority. But it is something that, like, number one, I really enjoy doing. And number two, it actually makes, I use my hands a lot in my business. It looks a lot better when my nails are all the same length and the same color. And so, there are actual reasons to doing it. But the thing is that I have blown it off. I've blown it off for other people, and I have to recognize why, right? What's underneath that? Why am I neglecting to advocate for my own time and needs that I know that I need? What is getting in the way of that? And sometimes it's a season, and it's, tied to our security. Often with cancer, we got to pay our bills, we need food to eat. There's medical issues going on. There's some sort of issue around security that we're focused on. But I encourage you to take a little bit of an inventory around that and then follow up with one actionable way that you are going to begin to claim and then put action behind to make this happen. How you are going to stop enabling, especially the adults that are around you, the ones that are like responsible enough, right? Give or take. You can't do this with an infant. Like, if you're a mother listening to this, you can't do this with an infant. They are in constant need all the time. What it may look like is needing to ask for help from, your partner or your parents. But when it comes to dealing with especially full-grown adults and levels of ability, you have to find ways to continue to empower people to create independence and interdependence, not codependence. Oftentimes, this cycles back around to the mother that only finds her sense of worth in how she mothers. And mothering, I think, is my number one title out of everything. I'm a mother of 3 children. It is without a doubt the most rewarding and exhausting thing I've ever done in my life. But at the same time, there are real aspects to it that are, especially when there's an empty nest, and you see it all the time when parents have kids that go off to college and they move out, that they're left with, like, I don't know who I am. I'm a shell of a person. I spent my entire life for other people. This is what I'm talking about. This is a full moon that is meant to show us the areas of our lives that we might be truly living for everyone but ourselves. And if that is true, then I invite you into the space of self-concept and sacred archetype or sacred architect work, right? So this is where I will leave you guys for today. Remember that Jupiter is going to be moving into Cancer in June of this year. There is a very positive aspect that starts on June 11th of 2025, and it carries for a whole year. And that is the North Node in Pisces is going to trine Jupiter in Cancer at 18 degrees from June of 2025 to June of 2026. So if you hear this and you're like, Lauren, I want to apply this in a more specific way. I want to know how to apply this to my life. Couple of things. Number one, I would encourage you to book a reading with me so that we can dive into your chart. That's mostly where people start, is by understanding their own birth chart and their own natal stories, their purpose, their challenges, their strengths. That's where I would start. The next thing would be checking out one of the free webinars that I have. I've started to bring those in. You can go to my website, which is in the product description below, and you'll see it to register. And then I have a program called Awaken. It is a 6-month group coaching program that is blended within multiples of my signature programs, one of which is astrology and tarot. And it is an entire program that was worth $5,000 in its own self that many people have done of mine. And we walk through depth astrology and application to your own chart over 6 months of time within a cohort of other people that are in the same process of trying to architect and reinvent themselves using these esoteric tools. So again, make sure you check out the description below. You'll see all of that down there. I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope that you don't feel too called out. Remember that that full moon is conjunct Mars retrograde. So if you feel these strange wells of frustration, resentment, anger, then I suggest that you get down and dig into there slightly so that you can begin to pull that up to the surface and get some reclamation around it. All right, my friends, until our next episode, I'll see you then.